everybody, it is Penny and Kim lighting up your Friday once again with the 5 stars of strengthening families. We are continuing our 4-part series on communication, and we have a new question for you as we do every week. But before we go on, Penny is going to review our last challenge from last week. Take it away, Penny.
Thank you. Thanks, Kim, and thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully you're staying cool in this scorcher of a summer we're having so far. All right, so last week we talked about cultivating pride and respect in your teens. How do you go about doing that? And we talked quite a bit about modeling, that how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself, how they see you handling your own mistakes. Being proud of your own accomplishments is a powerful tool to foster and cultivate this in them. So the challenge was to notice the times when you were modeling, when you were able to, pat yourself on the back or talk positively about yourself, and use that growth mindset language of, I don't know it yet, or that was my mistake and here's what I learned from it, those kinds of things. So hopefully you had some moments where you could notice that you were really being that positive model for your teens. Today, we're going to talk about how you communicate around behaviors and actions and choices of your teen or emerging adult. So Kim, here's the question. How do you communicate your confusion with your teen or emerging adult about their actions, behaviors, or choices? So that's the first part. And then how does the way you communicate make a difference? So how do you communicate your confusion around a choice or a behavior or an action that your teen or emerging adult is making or doing? And how does that make a difference, how you communicate that?
Well, I would like to answer the last part of the question first and kind of work my way backwards, because I think it's imperative. It's huge, has a huge impact on how our reaction has a huge impact on how they feel, and in particular, how understood they feel by us, because I think it's a really big piece of behaviors and choices that they've made, or that we don't necessarily agree with, or and so I think for us to still show some understanding, that because there's choices in my life, especially when I was a teen, that maybe choices that I could have made, and to have somebody who understood where I was coming from and how I kind of got there would mean the world to me. And when that person, whether it was my teacher or a parent or an older sibling, even I have quite a few older siblings, sometimes they could understand me, and it really made me feel, they took the time to understand where I was coming from, I guess, and it really made me feel connected, valued, and important, all of those things. So for me, that second part of the question is the biggie, is conveying that you understand, even though you're confused, by why they made that choice. If you convey that you say, what, buddy, I remember being there too. I made some choices too that maybe weren't the best interest for me. So I understand where you're coming from, even though maybe you don't all the way completely or 100%. I think it's important that we convey that we do, because it normalizes and validates, and that is plays a huge role in our relationship, I think. What do you think, Penny?
Well, first of all, I love the word confusion in this question. We talked a little about this before, that, you know, just our perspective going in to things is almost always better when we can bring that curiosity, right? That, or that confusion, like, yeah, I don't get it. Can you help me understand? As opposed to a judgment about what they did, or our displeasure, or our anger, right? So I love that, you know, so instead of like, why does it tick you off? Like, well, that word confusion is beautiful. So I think pretty straightforward for me is like, I don't get it, right? So just bringing that in, like, I don't understand, help me understand. I'd like to see where, like you said, where are you coming from? What, for me to be able to understand, I need more information, right? And that's kind of what it comes down to. And trying to sort of hold back the fear and the, you know, all those things that come rushing in, worrying about what other people think about my child and all those things, right? And just breathe and just ask for more information. Like, what, how, help me understand, right? I think, yeah. And really that's the easy part, the question. The hard part is the pulling back and the taking the time to bring yourself down. This is not an emergency, you know, all those things. Because you're right, relationship is key. And when we rush in with our fear and our judgment, it doesn't do the relationship any good. It doesn't mean that you can't still at the end set limits and say, you know, things like, yeah, okay, now I understand where you're coming from, and that's not how we do things in our family. Or that, you know, do you have some ideas about how you might want to try that a different way next time? Or whatever the case may be. There could even be consequences as a result. And that'll all be met with a lot more openness if we've already been able to come in confused and curious, as opposed to angry and judgmental, right? Because who doesn't communicate better with someone who is kind of like, I don't get that, even with your spouse or your partner, right? If you come in with like, you're this and you're that, and as opposed to, okay, I don't really understand why that's the way you want to do that. Can you give me some more information about it, right? That's, yeah, soft startup, right? And I think you summed up beautifully why it matters, right? It matters because it's relationship, and strong relationships are the key to influencing our teens and emerging adults, right? That's our golden ticket, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So I guess to summarize, unless you have anything else you want to add, anything we missed?
Nope, that's it. That's it. Yeah, I think I say that's it, and then I have a thought. You know, opening up the floor for conversation for them, letting them know what you want to hear, what they have to say and what their thoughts are around the decision that they made. And, you know, if you can convey that you get it, you see, even though you don't agree with it, or that you know, you with all your years of wisdom now as a parent would probably not have made that choice. And there are some consequences that are going to have to happen because of that choice. When you can convey that you understand how they got there, I think that gives them a deep feeling of connection, you know, to them. And even though, yeah, it might not have been the right thing to do, and now there's a consequence, it normalizes that they sort of lost their temper or lost their mix. You know, chances are they knew better. So many of us know when we make the wrong decision, we know better. it's because we've lost our temper or our mix, right? The temper, that's what a temper is, it's to mix. And we just need somebody to come alongside and say, I get it. I get that's why it happened. Here's the consequences that we have to deal with now. But I'll see you through it and stick by their side, right? So.
Yeah, and that brings up a thought for me that, often parents might find that or the idea of coming alongside or being their support, it doesn't mean that you're being permissive or supportive of the particular behavior, right? When we want to make that differentiation between what they've done and who they are, right? Who you are is my child, and I will support you and help you, and I get it. And the behavior wasn't appropriate, so here's what's going to happen as a result of that. So I think for a lot of people, that's kind of some confusion about permissiveness
Yes,
as opposed to relationship. Yeah.
And understanding does not mean that that you're condoning the behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so in summary, curiosity as always, self-regulation first as always. So you got to do what you got to do to get yourself to a place where you can authentically connect and be able to be curious and confused. So take the time to do that. Seldom is it an emergency or a need to get right in there right now, right? There's always time to take time to calm yourself down. Then you can talk about using language like confused, help me understand, and then like Kim said, we'll deal with the consequences. You'll deal with the consequences and I'll be here to support you. And understanding that support is not condoning a behavior. It is saying, I love you and I'm here for you. And, this is what's a result of what happened. Yeah. So I guess in our summary, we kind of throw out a bit of a challenge, which is, yeah, can you follow those steps? Can you calm yourself down and try to even just refrain from, the lecture or the anger to the confusion? Just think about, I'm confused. It's not something I would have done. I'm confused. Help me understand. That's a big challenge. It's a big challenge.
And sometimes they don't understand why they did that, right? And so if you can switch it from I don't understand to I actually do understand why you did that, and I get it. You don't have to go into explaining, but just say I get it. Just normalize, because we've all made mistakes. We've all made mistakes.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's a good point. So maybe just I'm confused, or I need to understand, or maybe just if they can't articulate it, just that acceptance of, okay, well, I can see that now that it was not the choice.
Yeah. And yeah. I like to say, I get it. I get it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just convey that there is that, it just normalizes and validates. It goes so far when you're able to normalize when, they messed up. Chances are they know it, at this point, because there's some shrapnel, there's something, carnage or whatever you want to call it. There's a wake of something that's going to have to be cleaned up, right? So they already know. Yeah. And that actually is also part of it too, is not acting in too close to when trying to teach the lesson of this when you're in the heat of the moment. We can't be going on big long lectures. It's just not going to work. So okay, now I'm not saying anything. I'm done.
Well, it's hard because it's a great question, right? It's true that, being in the green zone when we communicate is important, and often that's hard to come by when you're dealing with, choices that you see as bad or wrong, and we have all made mistakes. It's true. So, yeah. Okay. So, challenge put out. Will you accept?
Okay, awesome.
All right. So that is part 3. Next week, we'll be back with our final and 4th part in communication. Thanks for joining us and have a great weekend. Bye for now.
Bye.